Have you ever stopped to think, what happens when someone you really trust, like a family member, properly turns against you?
Yeah.
Not just, a fight, but real calculated sabotage.
Yeah.
The kind that could just tear down everything you've worked for.
It's a chilling idea, isn't it? That someone that close could actually want to cause that much harm.
It really is. Well, welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, dig into them, and pull out the key insights.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're getting into a really intense, very personal story. It comes from a YouTube transcript called "My Own Brother Stole Everything I Had Until I Took It All Back."
Wow.
Yeah. So our mission really is to unpack this whole thing. The betrayal, sure, but also the resilience and how he managed to reclaim everything.
And this story, it's all from Devin Clark's perspective, his own words. It details this incredibly complicated relationship with his younger brother, Elliot. It starts with them being kids, really close, but then spirals into, well, this shocking professional sabotage. And then Devin's fight, to clear his name, rebuild his life. It's quite the journey.
So what can you expect as we dive in? We're going to look at how their relationship subtly changed over time. Those warning signs Devin maybe missed at first.
Yeah, the red flags.
Exactly. And how methodical the betrayal actually was. But also, that whole journey of fighting back when it feels like you've lost it all, it's got some twists and definitely a powerful lesson about, well, looking out for yourself.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's unpack this story.
Absolutely. And to really get the weight of the betrayal, we need to start where it all began. The foundation. Devin and Elliot's childhood.
Okay.
They grew up in Nottingham. Modest house, semi-detached. Mom was an admin, dad was a mechanic. Devin paints this picture of it being, simple, happy enough, not rolling in money, but real.
Mm-hmm.
He remembers them being like best mates one minute, then, typical brothers fighting the next.
Sounds pretty standard for siblings. But there's this one story, isn't there, from when they were kids that really shows their initial bond.
Yeah, it really stands out. Devin talks about being maybe 10 years old. He broke their dad's prized model car. Big trouble.
Oh, dear.
And Elliot, apparently, without even thinking, just told Devin, "Tell Dad I did it." He took the blame.
Wow. That says a lot, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That early loyalty. How does that kind of set the stage for, well, how things ended up?
It's really quite poignant, actually, because it shows this incredibly strong, almost fierce loyalty from Elliot back then. It establishes this baseline of trust, protection, which makes what happens later just so much more jarring. It really shows how drastically things can change, right? How a relationship can just warp, especially when stuff underneath isn't dealt with.
That contrast is stark.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so they get older, and their paths start to really split.
Definitely.
Devin's the older one. He's described as the sensible one.
Yeah.
Studious, good grades, played football, clean-cut image, went off to uni in Leeds, studied business, landed a steady job in property management. Bright point, back in Nottingham. Very much the straight path.
Yeah, totally. And Elliot, he was clever, maybe even, Devin says, smarter in some ways, but hated rules, rebellious kid, always had some kind of half scheme going on, selling dodgy energy drinks, pirated films, that sort of thing. People liked him. He was funny, but he just couldn't stick at anything.
Flitted around a lot.
Constantly. Bartending, selling cars, bit of crypto, DJing. Never more than 6 months in one place. That's a huge contrast to Devin's steady climb, isn't it? Elliot always looking for the quick win.
It definitely sounds like a familiar dynamic in some ways, but Devin noticed it started to go deeper than just different choices. Those comments Elliot made, like the teasing about Devin's job. Look at Mr. Suit and Tie, or must be nice having your life all mapped out. How did that shift from banter to something that actually stung? What does that show us?
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? You see the shift happen. It stops being just, brotherly ribbing, and it starts to have this edge, a real bitterness. It clearly shows Elliot's resentment building up towards Devin's stability, his success.
Like he couldn't handle it.
Kind of. It's a classic sign, really, of how envy, when it's not talked about or resolved, can just fester. It can turn someone else's good news into, a personal insult for the person feeling envious. That's a big red flag in any relationship, honestly.
And things got worse, didn't they? When Elliot actually moved in with Devin.
Yeah, that was a real turning point, seems like. After a breakup, Elliot needed a place, supposedly for a few weeks.
Famous last words.
Totally. It turned into over 6 months. And during that time, no rent from Elliot, No job, apparently super messy, borrowing stuff without asking.
Like the PlayStation.
Exactly. Took Devin's PlayStation for 2 months. And Devin, he kept making excuses, telling himself, oh, he's just going through a rough patch.
It's hard with family, isn't it? Setting those boundaries. What does that whole period tell us about Devin's side of things?
It really highlights that tough spot you can get into, trying to be supportive, but maybe enabling bad behavior.
Yeah.
Devin's excuses, they show that deep loyalty, that hope you have for family, even when they're, taking advantage. It's easy to slip from compassion into just letting things happen if you're not careful with boundaries, especially with people you love.
It's like that slow leak you mentioned earlier. You don't always see it until, bam, the ceiling collapses. And for Devin, that collapse, or at least the start of it, seemed to coincide with his promotion at Brightpoint.
Yes. Big moment for him.
Regional accounts lead.
Yeah.
Got the company car, a raise, handling big contracts. He was, as he put it, buzzing. Even saved Elliot some Prosecco to celebrate.
A nice gesture.
Yeah. But Elliot's reaction, what was that like?
Oh, it was telling. Devin said he barely looked up from his phone. Just muttered something like, mad guessing ours really does pay off.
Ouch.
Yeah. And then followed it up with, bet I could do your job in my sleep if I wanted. It's all numbers and bullshit anyway.
Wow. That's not just jealousy, is it? That's dismissive, almost hostile.
Exactly. It's way beyond a simple snide comment. It shows how deep that envy went. For Elliot, it seems like Devin's success felt like a personal jab, like it highlighted his own choices, his own maybe perceived failures.
So the bitterness is just getting worse. Were there other signs, like specific moments that started to make Devin uneasy even before the big blow-up?
Oh, yeah. Things started getting weird. Devin mentions Elliot started asking really strange questions.
Like what?
Things like, how much do you reckon your company would pay out if someone sued them? Or where do they keep the client contracts? On your laptop? Or is it cloud storage?
Not exactly casual chat.
Not at all. Devin apparently joked back, what, planning a heist? But Elliot just smiled, didn't answer. Then, maybe a week later, the big one. Devin walks in and catches Elliot on his work laptop.
No way.
Yep. Looking at spreadsheets, client names, contract files. Devin said he felt sick, but even then, tried to rationalize it. Thought maybe he was being paranoid.
That is genuinely chilling. And I guess that leads him to talk to someone else, his friend.
Right. He confided in his university mate, Callum, and Callum's reaction was immediate. Like, Dev, that's dodgy. Password protect everything. Lock your room. Something's not right here.
Good friend. What did Devin do?
Well, this is interesting. He initially kind of dismissed the worry, but then he did immediately go and password protect his files and lock his bedroom door.
So deep down, he knew.
Exactly. It shows that even if he wasn't ready to admit it, he knew Callum had a point. It's that classic thing, isn't it? When you're too close, especially with family, your judgment gets clouded. An outside friend can see the danger signs you're maybe trying to ignore. He couldn't quite trust Elliot anymore, but hadn't fully faced that yet.
And then came the moment where he couldn't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
Overhearing that phone call.
Yeah. The final, undeniable proof. He hears Elliot pacing, whispering on the phone late one night, talking about client accounts, having access to all of it, needing to find the right angle.
Oh my God.
That was it. Devin knew then. This wasn't just laziness or bitterness anymore. This was a plan, a deliberate, calculated plan to take him down. All doubt just vanished.
So the slow leak becomes a tidal wave. He walks into work, that Monday meeting with his manager, Sophie Grant.
Yeah, and he knows something's up straight away.
She puts a printout on the table, an invoice. It's got his name, his digital signature, but the numbers are way off, triple what they should have been, he says. And the bank details, totally different.
Nightmare scenario.
And Sophie just says, legal's involved. How did that hit him, and how did all those little things suddenly connect?
That's the moment it all crashed down. He immediately called Callum, his friend, right? And Callum just instantly said, it was Elliot.
Knew it.
Yeah, and for Devin, in that second, everything clicked. All those weird questions, catching him on the laptop, that overheard phone call, the secrecy, it wasn't random. It was all part of this plan. It's that awful clarity that comes after the betrayal, Suddenly, the whole pattern leading up to it makes perfect, terrible sense.
And he realized there was no one else it could have been, especially with the timing and access before he locked things down.
Exactly.
Plus, the digital evidence was pretty clear, wasn't it?
Undeniable, really. He checked his own backup, a USB drive, confirmed his original file was correct, the numbers were right.
Okay.
But the version the company had, the dodgy one, it had been uploaded using his login details from his home IP address. Crucially, on a date when he was physically miles away, at a conference in Birmingham.
So, proof positive someone else in his house did it while he was out.
Bingo. Which leads straight to that awful confrontation with Elliot.
How did that go down?
Brutal. Devin lays out the evidence. Elliot tries to laugh it off at first, like, fake laugh, but then the mask drops. Voice goes cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Then adds, and even if I did, what's the worst that happens? You lose your fancy job.
Whoa. Just
Ice cold. And that's when Devin truly got it. This wasn't just sabotage. Elliot was actively trying to frame him to destroy his entire career. It's chilling how that true, maybe hidden, malicious side can just suddenly appear when they're cornered.
and the company's reaction. The fallout.
Immediate and harsh. HR puts him on leave of absence. Devin knew what that meant. We think you did it. We just need to figure out how.
Oh, man.
His reputation was just trashed overnight. Colleagues avoiding him, clients asking for different managers. He tried showing his proof, the timeline, the IP address, evidence, everything. But the bird had decided. He was out.
Even with proof. That shows how damaging the initial accusation can be, doesn't it?
It really does, especially in a corporate setting. Once that seed of doubt, that suspicion is planted, it's incredibly hard to undo the damage. The system often reacts quickly to protect itself, and proving your innocence, especially against someone close who had access, is a huge uphill battle. The initial hit to your name, your job, it's often swift and brutal.
Then there's that other confrontation after he actually lost the job. That must have been raw.
Incredibly raw. Devin confronts Elliot again, basically saying, "You've ruined my life. Why? Just because I was doing okay."
And Elliot's justification.
This is maybe the most revealing part. Elliot apparently said something like, "Maybe if you weren't so smug about it, I wouldn't have had to put you in your place."
Smug. Or just successful.
Exactly. It shows how twisted the envy had become. Devin realized Elliot didn't just want his job or his success. He wanted to, quote, erase him, to wear my success like a mask.
Pathological.
It really goes beyond simple jealousy, doesn't it? It's this deep, dark desire to actually dismantle someone else, take over their life. It's a scary look at just how destructive that kind of resentment can be if it takes root.
And that betrayal from his own brothers sends Devin spiraling, right?
Yeah.
Rock bottom.
Absolutely. He's trying to find work, but that black mark from being let go follows him. Savings just disappear. He ends up selling his car for like half what it was worth just to cover rent.
And he's still living with Elliot.
Can you imagine? Callum, his friend, is telling him, "You have to get out of there." But Devin feels trapped. Jobless, reputation ruined, basically broke. Nowhere else to go, he says, living under the same roof as the person who did this to him.
Unbearable.
He describes hitting the absolute lowest point when he checked his bank account and saw just over 100 pounds left. 136 still, specifically. He said the anger just drained away, leaving him feeling like nothing left but a shell.
Wow. To be in that position, betrayed, jobless, almost penniless, that's about as low as it gets.
It truly is. That kind of devastation, financially, emotionally, especially caused by family, it strips everything away. Your security, your future, your sense of self. But, sometimes rock bottom is where things start to turn.
The only way is up kind of thing.
Sometimes, yeah. It can be the catalyst.
And it was for Devin. He talks about waking up one day, seeing Elliot acting like he owned the place, like a king in a stolen palace, he called it. And something just snapped.
The switch flip.
Yeah. No more pity, no more waiting. He decided he was going to rebuild, but smart, not just angry. What does that shift tell us?
It's that survival instinct kicking in, isn't it? Rock bottom, for some people, isn't the end. It's that point where you stop feeling helpless and start fighting back. And that decision to be smart about it, that's key. Moving past raw emotion towards, strategic action. He realized just being angry wouldn't fix it. He needed a plan.
His first step was arming himself with knowledge.
Exactly. He started digging, researching everything, whistleblower rules, employment tribunals, cyber forensics, spending hours in the library using internet cafes. He was determined to find those digital fingerprints Elliot must have left behind.
So he's not just looking for justice. He's trying to understand the system, the tech, to prove it.
Right. It shows how empowering knowledge can be. He wasn't just blindly lashing out. He wanted to understand how to take apart the lie legally and technically. Finding that digital evidence became his focus. It really shows how vital that kind of proof is these days, even in these really personal conflicts.
And that leads him to get help, right? An expert.
Yes, his friend Callum comes through again, introduces him to Leah, a cybersecurity expert, and together they found the smoking gun. or rather, the smoking keyboard.
What did they uncover? Was it solid?
Oh, absolutely damning, as Devin put it. They found concrete proof. Multiple logins to Devin's work account originating from the IP address of their flat. Crucially, during the time Devin was confirmed to be 120 miles away at that conference.
Irrefutable.
Pretty much. Plus, they found metadata on the modified invoice file itself showing it had been tampered with. And maybe the clincher. A hidden copy of the faked invoice still lurking in the trash folder of Devin's Google Drive.
How did that happen?
It had auto-synced when Elliot used Devin's browser, probably without even realizing he just wasn't tech-savvy enough to cover all his digital tracks. It was a complete trail proving someone else did it from that specific location and strongly pointing to Elliot.
Vindication. Finally. What did he do with that proof?
He put it all together professionally, just the facts, no emotional accusations. Sent it straight to Sophie, his old manager at Brightpoint, along with a formal appeal.
The wait must have been agony.
Must have been. But about a week later, the phone rings. It's Sophie. And her words were simple. We owe you an apology.
Wow. Just like that. How did Devin feel? It must have been a huge mix of things.
He describes exactly that. A flood of emotions. Relief, obviously huge relief, but also rage still. Sadness about the whole situation, the betrayal. But underneath it all, yes, vindication.
Yeah.
It's that moment of having your name cleared, being believed. But it's rarely just pure joy, is it? The scars are still there. The damage was done. Justice is often complicated like that. It's a huge step, but maybe just the start of healing.
But clearing his name with the company wasn't the end of it for him, was it?
Yeah.
He didn't just let Elliot walk away scot-free.
No, he didn't. He pursued justice, but kind of on his own terms. Leah, the cyber expert, helped him compile a formal report for the police.
Okay, on what grounds?
Identity theft, professional sabotage, potential financial fraud, serious stuff. And he also got a solicitor involved, looking into defamation and loss of income claims against Elliot.
So hitting him from multiple angles. Was he aiming for a big court case?
Not necessarily. Devin said he mainly wanted to rattle him, to show Elliot there were real, tangible consequences.
This is more about accountability and maybe deterrence.
Seems like it. A really smart approach, actually. The police report creates an official record. The solicitor's letter puts pressure on Elliot's future, his ability to get jobs or credit. It's about making sure Elliot understood the gravity of what he did, and that Devin wasn't just going to roll over anymore. It was strategic self-preservation.
Which brings us to that final confrontation. It sounds like it was handled very deliberately.
Very. Devin packed his things quietly and moved out in a big dramatic speech ode to Elliot, but then he went back. Not for an argument, but to reclaim his power. He just calmly placed an envelope on the coffee table in front of Elliot. Inside, copies of everything. The police complaint, Leah's digital audit report, the confirmation letter from HR at Brightpoint clearing Devin, the notice from his solicitor.
Laying it all out.
Exactly. And then he calmly explained the evidence trail. Elliot using the laptop, the browser sync catching him out, the fact he didn't even use an incognito window. The digital footprint was undeniable.
What was Elliot's reaction to that? Faced with cold, hard proof.
According to Devin, the defiance just crumbled, replaced by fear. Devin then gave him an ultimatum, clear and firm. Write a full confession to Brightpoint, detailing what he did, or Devin would make the police complaint public, share the evidence, effectively ruining any career prospects Elliot might ever have.
High stakes. And Devin's final words to him.
Incredibly powerful. He told Elliot, "You didn't want a chance, Elliot. You wanted to skip the work and wear my skin like a costume. And then, I don't hate you, but I won't let you take another thing from me."
Wow. That's not about revenge, is it? It's about boundaries, about taking back control.
Precisely. It signifies that complete shift. Devin isn't driven by hate anymore. He's driven by this firm resolution to protect himself, his future, his identity. He just leaves Elliot there, totally exposed, completely broken by the consequences of his own actions.
And that seems to be the real beginning of Devin's comeback. How did he rebuild things?
Started small, freelance work, some virtual finance consulting gigs. Then he landed a job as a junior consultant at a place called Clover Ledger. And interestingly, they hired him because of his story. They respected how he handled it.
So he didn't hide what happened.
No, he owned it. He talked about it in interviews, framed it not as something shameful, but as a story of survival, of resilience. That approach, that transparency, it kind of defanged the whole black mark thing, turned a negative into proof of his character, his ability to overcome adversity. It's a powerful lesson in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely. And his recovery wasn't just professional, was it? There was emotional healing, too.
Yeah, that seems crucial. He finally told his mom everything. Her reaction wasn't pity, he says, but anger at Elliot. And then she gave him this incredibly validating perspective, told him, "Your brother always wanted the easy way, but you were built for storms."
That must have meant a lot.
Hugely validating, you'd imagine. And he also found connection online, sharing his story, helping other people recognize similar red flags in their own lives.
Turning his experience into something useful for others.
Exactly. And the culmination, perhaps, was him starting to teach basic finance skills at a youth center in Brixton. He described that feeling as redemption in its purest form.
That's amazing. So it wasn't just about getting his old life back. It was about building something new, something meaningful from the wreckage.
That's what it looks like. True healing often seems to involve that step, transforming your own pain into something purposeful. He didn't just survive the storm. He used the experience to help navigate others through theirs. It's a really powerful example of finding good, even after something so profoundly bad.
So this whole deep dive, it really shows how devastating betrayal can be, right? Especially from family. Cuts so deep. But wow, it also shines a light on incredible strength. Reclaiming your story, your life, even when you've hit absolute rock bottom. Devin's journey shows that, well, justice isn't always about getting even. Sometimes it was about surviving, finding a new path, finding purpose you didn't expect.
Yeah, and realizing that your lowest point doesn't have to define you. It's what you choose to do next that really matters.
Right. So thinking about all this, what does it leave you, our listener, with? When you're faced with something incredibly tough, a betrayal maybe, where is that line? The line between compassion for someone, maybe family, and protecting yourself.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And maybe linked to that, how do you know when just getting through it isn't enough? When does real healing actually demand that you stand up, fight back strategically, assertively, to reclaim who you are and what your future looks like?